This is the European edition of Breaking Banks, the world's #1 fintech podcast and radio show. We bring you the European unicorns, startups, founders, regulators, and leaders innovating the rapidly evolving fintech scene today. A truly localized podcast with both English and local language content, with some of the world's most well-known hosts and influencers in the fintech sector globally. Join us every week as we explore what makes the European Union a phenomenal proving ground for many of the fastest growing fintech plays in the world today. Okay, let's roll.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Breaking Banks Europe. This is Roberto Capodieci, your host, and we have here a great guest.
Enrico Talin from Commercio.network.
All right, so he introduced himself. We are here in the intent to discuss another aspect for fintech to approach blockchain, especially in Europe, because being Breaking Bank Europe, we are taking care of Europe. With this organization called Commercio.network, which translating Commerce Network, but the website is Commercio.network, we're in Italy. They have made something very interesting. They put together a consortium of many companies. How many companies are there?
The consortium started with like only 4 people, 4 companies, and then grew to 50, and now we're like 96 companies.
96. So 4 more companies for the magic number of 100. So this is an opportunity. And all this company, it recalls me a little bit art receive for Corda, where a lot of banks participated, but that one ended up in a very strange way. Here we have actually a product that is very interesting because it's blockchain based, so has all the advantage of blockchain, but has a front that is much more useful for the company that adopted. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks for the Corda consortium example, because I never thought about it, but we started basically probably in the same time. But Corda was the object for Corda was to create a very permissioned blockchain. So basically we created exactly the opposite, because we wanted from start to create a public blockchain. So we use a Cosmos SDK technology. So it's a 3rd generation blockchain. So, we have like proof of stake and instant finality. So it's a very interesting and very powerful way to develop a blockchain. So anybody that wants to create its own blockchain, they can do it using the Cosmos SDK, and all the blockchains are interconnected with a asset exchange protocol called IBC.
So
yeah,
this is to say already that the blockchain created by Commercio.network uses some standards, so people can work on it without any issue.
We didn't like the first rule of crypto, you never do your own crypto. So the most important thing is never to try to create a blockchain from scratch. We use establish a Tendermint protocol for proof of stake, and we build upon this Cosmos SDK. The most important thing that we did is not technological.
Right, so that's exactly what left me very well impressed, because at the end of the day, it will be just another blockchain, right? So there are millions of blockchains, smart contracts are there, people can build what they want, things can be done in any way. But what is amazing about adopting the Commercio.network blockchain for whatever use is that there are a set applications already set. There is APIs, SDK for development, but there is something even better, that by the law, this blockchain has validity. So tell us more about this.
Yeah, this is especially, it's mind puzzling for especially people that comes outside of Europe. Why? Because everywhere else but Europe, especially if you are like in the United States, if you're in the United Kingdom, where there is common law, everything is a contract. So whatever, you can create something on the blockchain, and if the 2 people agree that it's fine, it's fine. That does not happen in Europe. Why? Because we have a very different set of rules in Europe, and each country has its own basically rules. But luckily for us, the digital people, we have a set of rules that makes a document legally binding, and these rules and regulation is called eIDAS regulation. It has been around since 2014, so it's nothing new. And this 2014 regulation provides the organizational, contractual, so contracts, and technical, and let's say workflow specification to make a digital document legally binding exactly in the same way you would sign a piece of paper.
Okay, so this is very interesting because many times people create incredible solution on blockchain, and then in the last mile they are lost because they have no legal validity of what they do. So here we have identity management, document authorization that is actually legal. Because we all use in the Bitcoin blockchain the proof of existence. I record the document since 10 years ago, but if I ever needed, thank God I didn't need, but if I ever needed to go in court and say, hey, no, this proof that I registered, so I need to find a judge that knows what blockchain is, etc., etc. While here, there is
you don't need it, because basically
signature that is compliant to the law.
Yeah, not only the signatures, not only the technical aspect, because like the judge, of course, is a man of law or woman of law, so they only apply code, but not code, legal code, and they say what is valid and what's valid. They have to take a look of what is done in terms of regulation. Europe decides with eIDAS, basically provides a way for technology people like us and from Commercio Network to create a legally binding document that if you go throughout Europe, anywhere in Europe, and you go in front of a judge and you provide a blockchain transaction made with Commercio Network, no single judge can dismiss this proof because it's electronic. Why? Because eIDAS provides exactly that. It's born just to do not let any judge or any person in Europe to say, no, I cannot accept it because it's digital.
Okay.
No.
So this is the step further to the electronic signature that we have in many countries, like Estonia been leading this, but now, many other countries in Europe have. So this is interesting because it's a standard Cosmos. There are special tools built on it. Is managed by this consortium of companies that really care about the legal aspect, and is open.
They only care about
exactly right.
The technology they don't care about much, because they're not like, let's say, picky about if it's a blockchain or not, because they're not interested. Of course, it's a blockchain because provides a better, let's say, binding way among the consortium member. But the most important thing for them is it legally binding?
Exactly.
Yes, it is.
And what really left me well impressed, that's why I really want to share with everybody this thing, is that it's not made with the spirit of a closed thing just for a few. It's open. So any developer, and I spoke with so many around Europe, they have the project idea to do, the notarization of the diploma of the school rather than warranty for machineries, rather than, anything. Don't need to go beside sitting in Ethereum, write a smart contract, and then it's not legally valid. Can use Commercio Network, is open. So it's a really blockchain open. If somebody wants to join as a validator node, there is a membership fee of this consortium, obviously. If somebody wants to use particular pieces of software provided by Commercio Network, can pay a fee for it, which I assure is now something forbidden, something that any developer can pretty much afford. And can build solution that could build with any other blockchain, but have a legal value. So.
It's a legal validity. So you do your own, you have an idea. You build it technically, but unfortunately, exactly like you said, then does not stand in court. So people won't use it because it's not like legally binding. In our case, we created first the legally binding aspect, then the API. So you don't need to be absolutely a Web3 developer. Even if you are like a Web2 developer, since we provide the API, okay, we can of course let you create a solution that is Web 2.0 with the user experience, so login and password. Of course, if you want to delve into the SDK, you still can use
for purists of blockchain, obviously people want to sign in their own hardware wallet.
Can use MetaMask or Kepler in this
case.
case.
In the case for Cosmos, it's not MetaMask for Ethereum,
It's
but
Kepler,
the equivalent of MetaMask.
Yeah.
But for less, if my grandma need to use the system and she will get lost with a wallet hardware or a browser wallet, they have a compliance system so that they comply with the regulation for banks like this to manage the private key.
Yeah.
So this
HSM.
so this is an additional things to make it legally compliant, also to the level of key management, plus making compliant for dumb user to be able to use the system, easy for developer with SDK. So it's really something that should see a very bright future, right? They should have an easy onboarding of a project already implemented for something else. They need the additional aspect of being legally compliant. So how long is that you've been working, Justin?
Well, we started, the idea was actually during the DevCon in Cancun. So the idea came out in 2017. You remember was the time there was like all the crypto kitties. So the group of people that were there behind Commercio said, why we don't do like something like a project blockchain instead of exchanging crypto kitties, let's do with a real legally binding document. And it was just an idea in 2017. And also, since we were in Cancun, there was a lot of margarita drinking, so we didn't really focus much. But in 2018, we created the company, the startup company. We got like initial seed funding thanks to 25 local entrepreneurs. And then with that money, we created the first version of the chain in 2019. And also in 2019, we created a consortium. Now the consortium, basically, we had like the startup and the consortium. Now we created one single thing. So the consortium merged into one single, and it's an incorporated company. So everybody is under the same roof. Instead of having the consortium and the startup, we created like a single one.
Most blockchain have a foundation.
We don't have foundation.
We don't work like this. It's more a commercial thing. So. It is for everybody. It is open.
Open. Everything is open source.
It remains a business so I like this because it's really the transition, the hybrid transition that is needed to bring on something that is decentralized, and yet that has somebody that makes sure that it grows properly without being just a donation based.
The governance, for example, we have like our own governance system in Cosmos. We use Cosmos standard governance, but it does not vote. All the validators do not vote about economic issues because our token is an utility token. So the only vote about technology matter. Everything, functionality, we want to have this, and that. In fact, the 8 smart contracts that we build are not because we just build it because we wanted to build it trying to do a cool thing. No, was exactly from the demand of the people involved in the consortium. So they present us with like 250 problems, and we analyze them. With those 250 problems, we found that we could solve them with 8 smart contracts. So it's only in Commercio network there are only 8 smart contracts, but are the smart contracts they want, the companies want.
So, and I am mesmerized because I've been trying to invest. I did invest 3 years of my life to find technology in Europe. I live in Southeast Asia where blockchain is something that is already aged and governments help, but there are central banks that help. Here in Europe is something new. And I am now in the heart of Milan. I am now in Berlin. I am in a countryside outside in the far depth of the Venetian region. And I find this thing it's not surprising that our guest speaks English so well because he has a background of studying in the United States. And so that's why you bring this open-mindedness and this excellence here. But I'm really... without any offense, in the middle of nowhere, in a beautiful place in the middle of nature, And where there is this technology and the heart of what can become a revolution in the adoption of blockchain in Europe, because Europe is a place that really care about legal compliance of things, because that's
a lot of paper. We have a lot of it's very bureaucratic continent.
All right, so well, this is an invite to any company that wants to develop technology in Europe legally compliant, and the developer that is already doing a project but maybe want to shift into something that has legal compliance. I'm doing this open disclosure without any direct interest, because
Absolutely.
I want to promote something that I think is valid and is really, in the world of fintech, a step ahead that is necessary, something excellent. It's been a pleasure having this chat with you.
Thank you.
Anybody want to contact, we're going to put the contact under here in the comment section. Leave comments or write, and wishing the best to Commercio.network.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Banks Europe, a Provoke Media podcast in cooperation with FinTech Stage. Don't forget to tweet us out, shout out, or post to the team at Breaking Banks EU on Twitter. If there's something or someone you'd like to hear on our cast, let us know. See you next week on Breaking Banks Europe.